And before you know it, another week's gone by and we're back with a new database, and there's a lot to discuss today, so let's get straight into it. The first thing is we've obviously had State of Play. We've had basically our kickoff of E3, which is always that exciting time of the year when brand new games, hardware and all good things get shown off and everyone gets giddy and excited about what may come. And what's even more exciting is the fact that many titles were actually within the next 12 months or so of release, which is exciting. I hate all these 5 years ahead. It does take me back to the golden days, a little anyway, where games hit magazine previews or even earlier the shelves of your local shop with little to no information known and hardly any pre-rendered cinematics. Well, damn you, Alien Dark Descent. Shame on you. Everyone remembers Colonial Marines. But back when the covers, screenshots and the back of the box and word of mouth was so vital to releases, and this is kind of like that because we're actually getting very quick glimpses of titles that are only months away rather than years away, or probably never even land. With such a packed game show, the first time in some cases these titles being shown off, it really is my preference of how these things should be handled, in my opinion, and I've always said that. So let's kick off with the first title, which is one that's actually 10 years old, just going back to what I've just said, believe it or not. This was actually shown here for the Xbox and PC, and I'm really excited and enticed on what was shown here. Instant alien isolation, style and tension really as it unfolds from this chromatic altered screen, that poor VHS quality. David Fincher almost vibes throughout this demonstration. But what really stands out though, and is a good example of why being technology obsessed for the tech's sake is never the answer. It's the combination of the art, the animation, the design, the tech, the motion, those post effects and sound, all of that portrays the intent and delivers the impact this demonstration shows. I saw a good deal of this during the demos here, and this one in particular takes me back to the late 90s, early 2000s flashbacks of how games used to be shown off. The use of silence and mechanical clicks, sudden flashing and buzzing, distraction and that key moment of terror and humanity almost, as the robot picks you up, his mouth closes and then the hand is forced to stop twitching as it controls it, and then boom, you're dead. This is a totally perfect demo to me. Very short, no cluttered UI, no heavy self-dialogue, nothing at all really. It just tells you so much of its clear survival horror game, and it doesn't need to say a bloody word, and I love that. Really looking forward to this one, and I hope it has a VR release on Oculus or maybe even PSVR2. It could be a great part of the equation, and it would be perfect in my opinion. An absolute pantsoiler of a title here with huge amounts of originality, and it really stands out to me. It's one that's hit my list for sure. Cannot wait. Obviously, this is merging things between State of Play and what was shown at the Summer Game Fest. So the horror was a strong theme, I think, in most of the shows. And as a child of the 70s and 80s myself, we know that horror was a massive part of our life back then, with the likes of Lucio Fulci, Dario Argento, Tom Savini, Dick Smith, Lamberto Bava, et al. All being huge names in the genre, really. And the remake of one of the best titles, not only on the PlayStation 3, but from the 7th generation of consoles in its entirety, has already been remastered into 60 FPS on the 8th gen. And now on the 9th gen, we get a remake. So the clear process here is around that classic economies of scale benefit and return on investment, that ROI from porting your engine to a new generation. And we've always seen this, and I've discussed this many times in the past. So nothing new here. The remaster was that. Again, it was to kick off development of its sequel. And here, this is them, Naughty Dog, taking their very same Last of Us 2 engine and remaking the first game with all the benefits that offered. This means that on the initial comparison here, it may look like not a huge increase, but recall that the PS4 remaster was all largely pre-rendered cinematics at 60 FPS, whereas here they're all 60 FPS and in real time, and therefore don't change from the gameplay. The contrast between cinematics and gameplay in the PS4 remaster was still pretty stark. And on top of that, they're obviously much higher resolution and fidelity. We can see the same models used here from The Last of Us 2, increase in post effects such as depth of field, better motion blur, significantly improved lighting and PBR materials. Obviously Joel is the same model pretty much. This will also include the new and improved gameplay mechanics and deformation and dismemberment system, that motion matching animation, and I'm sure other bits and bobs that they're going to add in and improve. This should remind us all of a similar scenario we saw with Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear Solid remake in the Twin Snakes that was on the GameCube. as the careful balance of managing the improved change gameplay mechanics can drastically change the way the game is played. And I covered this more in my Dead Space remake preview over on IGN, so check the link out below if you haven't had a chance to watch that. Obviously, this is following the same pattern. It moved a newer engine over to new hardware, and it then used an older game to validate that process and kill many birds with a single stone. It gets teams up to speed and educated on the tech and the hardware. It subsidizes development with some level of ROI, and it removes any complexity of having to make a game, narrative, voice capture, etc. All of that. The team just focuses on the improvements. They use models from the newer game. They backport them to the old one. And you can see exactly that here with the same models that Naughty Dog used in the sequel. It's now a growing studio as well. So another reason why this makes sense is they'll have multiple siloed work streams running across multiple projects in parallel. And therefore it helps younger teams get up to speed with a smaller, more focused development that still has all the challenges of a full end-to-end life cycle, that ship product that you need to do to get something out the door, but a shorter roadmap and reduced complexity, team size and skill sets. I would imagine all of that can be reduced down, not taking the core aspects of your business away, or at least allowing the tech team, the engine team, to flip-flop between multiple work streams and not be dedicated on one. All of that is a standard PI process for development. The other benefit here is obviously the business one, obviously, as delivery. As I've talked about a great deal, this is exactly the kind of strategic planning you have to factor into long-term planning. When you're doing two things 2-3 years ahead, the COVID impact, all of that has a factor on what is possible and likely. Delays are likely, and obviously now we've seen absolutely. To keep a release schedule going, and things can and will slip. As such, this will nicely fill a gap if something should slip, and if not, then it just adds even more value to your existing portfolio. So it's kind of a win-win. And that's never really been played. The original itself may not have even been played by people on the PS5. So there's that obvious chance for those to jump in and play it in the best possible light, and many of us who want to double or triple dip play it again in an even better format. It also comes with the extra benefit of giving Sony a full start on that PC port to get people into the sequel, before the sequel lands, get them into the franchise, and then when that sequel does land at a later date, more of those people are likely to jump in and buy The Last of Us 2, which itself will be improved and benefit from this port. There's obviously much more to discuss on this title very soon, but for now I'm sure it will be a fan favourite for those that wanted to experience more of that rage of Joel and Ellie one more time. It's a great game, let's be honest.
Shut. Count.
I got this.
Hope you know how to use that thing.
I've had some practice.
Remakes to the new remasters, with Modern Warfare 2 Remake continuing the positive trend. And I've seen many of these in these trailers so far. The quality and attention to detail is exquisite. And aside the fear of the petabyte drive we'll probably need to install this latest IW Engine title, it really shows that, like Battlefield used to be, that Call of Duty games continue to lead on many of the technical aspects of games in general. It also brings us back to what I started talking about when games really kind of push that technical aspect. It brings me back to how games were kind of groundbreaking. Things like Metal Gear Solid 2 trailer, as the demo gives me flashes of that, and the infamous Killzone 2 pre-render. It's next-gen, rain-soaked, wet shaders galore. Things always look so much better in the rain. Low light, lens flare, excellent use of camera bob, motion blur, and even the same vertex warping and flipping that Metal Gear Solid 2 used to simulate cloth movement in the wind. It's all here, but fidelity is absolutely sky high with this PS5 demo. I'm assuming that based on the prompts, but you never know. Shadows still appear here to be ray traced, as they have a lovely soft penumbra to them and some contact hardening. Light in general is excellent in this demonstration, with a high use of dynamic light, shadows and colours to create great atmosphere here. It's very artistically very well driven and constructed, played almost through one camera view, and then using that. I would assume all of this has been motion captured the whole playthrough. I suspect this is kind of a highlight mission in the game, in the campaign. It's obviously heavily scripted, but all of that is still a great way to show off your engine and technology, as it kind of forces people down a funnel, and it really shows how good things can play. And obviously things will change dynamically as you play it, but this is obviously the best case scenario. And all of this, the technology itself increases throughout the demonstration. You've got particle explosions, great camera focus effects, abundant use of alpha effects, and again that camera movement is core to why this looks so impressive. The attention to detail on small nuances such as the cloth, the rain, the animation, the physics, all of that is brilliant. I generally always enjoyed the COD campaigns for the visual spectacle they offer, And this longer gameplay demo really felt like one of those next-gen E3 moments we've seen before in many aspects. Again, COD may not be for everyone and it won't last long, but it always comes with a big impact, and you can't deny the sales are there.
3, 2, 1, execute!
Talking of next gen, actually, the next one is a clear example of that in striking distance's new title, Dead Space 4. Callisto Protocol. Yeah, this is obviously the ex-lead of Call of Duty veteran himself and Dead Space creator himself, Glenn Schofield, and many of the team from that old game, and obviously new passionate members as well supporting that. I think you'll agree this is actually a big highlight of the games shown so far, both from an atmosphere and strong impression, but also from that technology itself. Obviously, this Unreal-powered title, I'm not 100% sure if it's Unreal Engine 5 or 4, but the fact that the team started development around 3 years ago, and for the best part, they've got about 5 months left until December 2nd, launch. That's an incredible feat of delivery, really, equaled only by Kojima Studios, I'd say, with Death Stranding. And again, like that game, it looks to be leading the charge in, kind of photorealistic rendering and locations. And I'm not joking when I say at points in this trailer, I thought we had video playback or a form of video blended rendering, such as Rockstar's LA Noire? Yeah, LA Noire. But it's not. It's all real-time rendering. It's a great example of the sheer quality and detail a title can target on PS5 and Series X and high-end PC. Obviously, there's also a last-gen version here. Again, all about those sales. Don't get panicked. You can see here, this doesn't look depressing, but the last-gen version comparisons and cutbacks made on, the Xbox One, the PS4, and even many PC specs. It'll be very interesting to see just what that looks like and how they've managed that balance. But the technology, I'll be talking about that much more very soon. It's a clear passion project again, and a continuation of the original 2 Dead Space titles. We'll forget the third, that went completely off the rails, and I don't think Glenn was entirely involved in that at all. And it's a game I loved, a series I loved it, and I covered it again in my remake video, so go and check that out on IGN. I do have a lot of passion for this title. I think it's absolutely amazing. And it will just pip, actually, that remake by a few months, which is also another good thing in terms of, more people pushing this kind of game style. And I love the fact that they're continuing that. So we see, in-game physical UI systems, health's on your neck, the ammo's on the gun. And I'm sure the same physicality of conditions, such as, leaning against the walls in context sections or breathing heavy when you get really low on energy, and those dynamic and visceral deaths. Made all the more falsified with that photorealistic rendering on display here. Absolutely love it. You've got like full real-time lighting. I'm not sure if it's ray tracing here, but it does what it needs to. It does what it says on the tin. It's accurate, it's atmospheric. And it really, pushes all those things off the charts. Animation quality, facial capture, physics-based action and dismemberment, as you can dodge and then melee and shoot with rapid speed. It keeps that balance of reality but gameplay in constant focus. And I loved everything about this demo. And I'm so looking forward to it, really, and to talk about it more and actually get people to see it. It really excites me. I don't joke about this. This really is, for all intents and purposes, the same kind of quality on show here you'd see from top-end first-party Sony studios. And this is a newly established, admittedly very experienced team, but it's up there with Sony's first-party, Naughty Dog, Kojima, and many other studios, generally the best in the business already. And again, a lot of that is because they're sharing the wealth, people from other teams. The tech rendering lead here on the studio is Jorge Jimenez, which is a guy that I've talked about many times before. He used to work for Activision. A big reason that Modern Warfare, I just mentioned, is the way, how good it looks and how technically forward-thinking it is because of him. He's one of the leads in that title for many years. He's pushed the technology there. And I talked about him in one of my AA videos about 7 years ago now, or 8 years, I don't know, a few years ago. But the team, like I say, they've certainly come out swinging here with a title that could take all the wind out of EA's Dead Space remake sales, which itself looks excellent. I'm really looking forward to it. So all power to them. More people in this space, the better. I love me some good horror games. And this is really a spiritual continuation and extension, I think, of that series in all but name. But I cannot wait to kill and be killed many times over in the name of horror, technology, and great gameplay. I'm a big fan, you could say. What an ending to a demo, eh?
Welcome to your new home.
And we saw some other surprise titles. So Flashback 2, I mean, that came out of nowhere. Flashback is one of those old games that, admittedly, you know, it was a big game. It did well. It was kind of born on the back of Another World. So I was surprised to see Flashback again. There wasn't much to see here, though, so I'll be interested to see where that pans out. And obviously Spiderman, Insomniac are moving their PC version with Nixie's absolutely incredible team that now part of Sony First Party Studios. So they're going to lead the charge in terms of these PC ports, which will really raise the quality. I think a lot of other studios need to be aware of this. You know, with Nixie's on board, with Sony's quality of first party, they're really going to raise the bar on what PC titles can look like and run like. So I really am very interested to see how good Spider-Man is. I don't expect it to be revolutionary over the PS5 version, but I do expect to see differences, you know, that are there. Resolution, obviously, frame rates, but obviously, I'll be assuming they're going to add more things in there with the ray tracing, you know, the shadows, AO. There's a lot of things they could do, so it'd be interesting to see how they push that forward, but definitely going to be an interesting view on where that lands. And again, remakes, so Res4, I mean, that is the title that's been most ported. You know, Last of Us, as I mentioned earlier, that's a minor baby compared to Res 4, which has been ported to everything. In fact, I think only Doom beats it at this point. Or maybe Skyrim, don't know. But the remake looks good. It's a good combination of, clearly, RE Village and taking a lot of the, you know, the visuals, the materials, the models, all of that kind of element around that title, because that really is a spiritual remake of Res 4. And I'm pretty sure it's been in development in parallel, you know, with RE Village. And again, the RE engine is exceptional. I've always praised it. You know, their rendering of facial animation, motion capture, PBR materials, the photogrammetry they use, all of that really works exceptionally well. And it creates excellent materials for horror and gore. And the kind of games they make, you know, I love these titles. And it's one of my favourite Resident Evil titles, Resident Evil 4 Remake. Well, Resident Evil 4 itself. In fact, I did a huge retrospective on it quite a few years ago. So again, go back, check that out if you haven't seen it already on my channel. There's a Resident Evil 4 retrospective between, you know, PS2, GameCube, PC, all that kind of good stuff. So go and check it out. It's a lovely, lovely game. And I think that they've really encaptured that kind of balance between reimagining the original title and reinventing it. And I think that's why Resident Evil Remake 2 was brilliant. You know, it worked well for new players to come in and play something modern and improve it all and bring it up to date with the RE engine. I don't think Resident Evil 3 was that good. I think they rushed that one out a little bit too much and didn't do enough with it. They cut content, clearly, on that. Which I think happened on RE Village as well. But I think they did enough job there that new players could enjoy it. But, you know, veterans like myself who played it back in the day multiple times, who've played it to, you know, all the way through on both discs and finished it, still got something new out of it. It still, you know, surprised us with new elements. And I'm looking forward to replaying RE4 in that sense of that reimagining of the original title with lots of twists and turns that we didn't expect, or taking things in new avenues. So that'll be exciting. And again, it brings us to the PSVR2 being shown off. So that's really good news. I knew that was coming soon. Hopefully, this will be the start of things to flood out. As I said before, when I covered this, the PSVR2 has been designed to be, you know, part of PS5. PSVR was an add-on that was potentially in development after the PS4 launched. It was something they thought about and they pushed it. This is the sense, as I said before, the PSVR5 and PSVR2 were made in tandem. So everything around it is designed to allow games to be extended. The SDK's been out for 18 months. I've covered that before in a previous video. There's lots of people working on these titles. You've got, you know, Call of the Mountain, Horizon Call of the Mountain, which is in parallel with Firesprite. Great team that one of the developers I spoke to on a podcast, Easy. He's got a lot of good things there about that team. They've got a lot of good things in the works. They've got another unannounced title, VR title in the works. You can see the quality here. RE Village in PSVR2 is going to be brilliant. The move controllers significantly improve things in the PSVR, but they're nothing. They're rubbish compared to, you know, the Valve controls, the Knuckles, and what PSVR2 is pushing is pretty much identical. You know, feedback, haptic feedback, that nuanced control. The helmet itself has got it as well. Single thread, you know, in terms of one core, probably for power related. The fidelity of the screen, and what you've pretty much got here is the PS5 version, potentially without ray tracing, but that's not going to make much difference, in a nice high resolution with that pervasive viewing and all the elements that PSVR2 is designed around to focus the performance of the hardware to give you a 2D quality image in proper 3D in VR, and that to me is exceptional. And the way this is designed is so developers can actually just add on VR modes. They don't need to make another game. They just add in the VR mode. It takes care of that for you as part of the SDK to streamline the process. Unity's done a really good job in their engine to really push forward on that, to try and get people into that area. And in fact, Unity was probably the most popular engine even on PSVR for titles. Many titles I reviewed in PSVR were Unity-powered engines. So they really have got their foothold in that VR space, and I'll be excited to see what happens with that. So, you know, RE Village in VR, great. Call of the Mountain, and many other titles that will be coming very soon. So really I'm looking forward to that and what that means in the space. Probably a lot of talk on games, but that makes sense. One more I want to talk about, though, is another Unreal Engine 5 title. South Korean team, they're new, potentially very rich, because obviously you've got to remember the Asian market's got a lot of wealthy people that invest in these studios, but what they've shown so far in Project M looks incredible. It's definitely a David Cage kind of Beyond style title, QTE, Shenmue moments. The whole game will be dual choice, walk through the street. You've got this parallel split branch between succeed, fail, or branch off in different directions. But visually, it's all very impressive from Unreal Engine 5. They're balancing it well. There's no ray tracing by looks things here. They're just using standard SSR with the obvious occlusion and artifacts, but that's bang on. The model quality, the animation, the motion capture they're clearly using, all of that works brilliantly. And this new studio is coming in, as we've seen with the other titles, such as the Journey to the West, what's it called, Black Wang title, that one. It just looks brilliant, really taking advantage of your Unreal Engine 5, because what it means is teams that are brand new can hit the ground running with an established hardware. They don't need to run established engine, and they don't need to worry about bringing it up to speed, getting developers in, building the technology from scratch. They can just hit the ground running, take shared knowledge from other people, and then once they ship a product, there's nothing stopping these people from moving into their own technology to make something bespoke that they need. But right now, Unreal Engine 5, for me, the biggest benefit that offers, I think, is to get smaller teams the quality to compete at a level they wouldn't done without it, and that's what I'm looking forward to. And Project M is a perfect example of that. They're right up with the big boys straight away, and they're limiting their game style and functionality here with this QT style, but still, the quality here looks real hardware. You got aliasing on alpha effects, and the transparencies here, and the depth of field pass. There's obvious signs this is on genuine real-time hardware. It looks great. Cannot wait to see it. Looks exciting, and it's always good to see new teams and new things pushing forward. Quick self-plug, just like to keep out, not just I'm trying to push myself, but you may or may not have seen it. So over on IGN, I've got 3 videos up. Sniper Elite 5, covered every single version, including PC. A lot of stuff to discuss there. Some benefits, some negatives from Sniper Elite 4. Some comparisons from the platforms, which are odd. Some performance issues, definitely, but certainly an interesting one. It's always fun, Sniper Elite. It's a great title to play, and it's enjoyable. Gets less and less historically accurate as time goes on. It's now reached Rambo levels at this point, but at the end of the day, it's a fun title. It's not meant to be realistic. Enjoy it, play it. It's fun. It's got a few bugs and quirks, definitely, but it's a good review. If you haven't checked it out, do check it out. Horizon Forbidden West, the PS5 update for performance. That's a huge one. Significant improvements there. In some ways, I think the performance mode got worse after my review code. It went back and forth. They'd made some changes, but fundamentally they fixed everything now. And I kind of talk about what I think that might be, how they've done it. There's no real data out there in the moment. We know it's the AA change and checkerboard and all that kind of stuff, which I mentioned in the video, but the results speak for themselves. It's definitely one worth checking out. If you've got the title, then do swip over now. I do think that most people wouldn't even notice now that you're going from 30 to 60, other than some slight changes in lighting and shadows. You can notice at certain points, very rare, in cutscenes maybe, but the performance improvement in the performance mode is definitely worthwhile. So do check that out. And then finally, great title, love it. Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. I thought they're brilliant in their day. The Switch port, I've checked that out, compared it against the original Xbox. A lot of comments on the video as well I've seen. Why don't you compare it to PC? PC's got its problems. I kind of know it did, and that's exactly why I didn't compare it to PC, because it's not really fair. Switch against PC is kind of a bit redundant, even a 10-year-old PC. I compared it to the original Xbox because that's kind of the target audience it's going for, and when it falls down in many areas, a lot of the issues are from the PC, a lot of the issues around the limitations of the Switch hardware, memory space, all the kind of things I discussed. Go and check that review out. It's still a great game, but yeah, it's not quite fit for release at this point on the version they've released. Albeit, many of those bugs were present, as I mentioned in the video, in the original release. They should all be fixed now. It's 18 years ago. You're re-releasing it. Fix the code where you can. Maybe they haven't got access to the code. I don't know. But yeah, you're paying £15. It's worth it for the DLC, but it's definitely a title that's worth looking at. So go and check that review out. In terms of upcoming content, I'm doing a quick one on AC Origins, the 60 FPS patch for PS5, Series X, Series S. I went out and bought it, not realising it was on Game Pass, but there you go, I bought it on the Xbox, so I've got that again. But that's one of the benefits of Game Pass, I suppose. You get these old titles that get released, and you get it for free, and you get to test it out. one of the better AC titles, I think, of the modern era. It certainly has a really nice design, nice layout. You can declutter the screen, and I think the whole world works really well. Really great art and style in there. I do like this one much more than Odyssey, which I think goes completely off the rails and it's all over the place. The storage doesn't work. Splitting it out is just odd. And then FSR 2.0, covering that on the God of War release that's now had it, and obviously a little bit of Deathloop in there. Really good technology, really great, and really excellent to see AMD really stepping up the fight with NVIDIA on the DLSS option. And there's some definite wins here in terms of the quality mode specifically against DLSS. And this is early days, so you know it's great to see competition. I really want Intel to get in now and get their version released so we can start looking at the three people, because like I always say, competition breeds better results for consumers. It improves everything across the board. So definitely check that out. That'll be up in the next day or two. And then finally, my Dreamcast versus Neon 250. If you haven't checked it out already, that's been up for a while for patrons now. Part 2 is going to be up at the latest Tuesday next week for patrons. Yeah, another hour. Lots of stuff in there, lots of games, lots of PC back in the day, lots of comparisons, things that I'm sure many people were going, that's not how it performed. Absolutely it did. I was there, I was building PCs at the time. I know this stuff very well, and this is really reinforcing. In fact, what I'm showing you is the absolute pinnacle of what you could have got back then. So actually it was slightly better than what I had at the time, because obviously hindsight's always 20/20. You can tweak things specifically that you didn't know back then. Obviously get slightly better hardware in terms of RAM and CPU speeds and all that kind of stuff than you actually did back then. So absolutely this is the best you can compete with, and there's some really interesting results there that I think will surprise a lot of people. What else have we got? That's it on my list. I may have missed most of the things, but I've got to keep it sweet and short as possible. I did want to go through some Q&A on patrons, but I didn't get a chance. So if you are a patron, then please go in on the bottom of this list in here, add your questions. Any ones that have been added before, I am collating them, so don't worry, I will pick those up and add them in the next one. So I'll try and have a slightly longer one with Q&A on it. I'm just not doing it now because I've got to finish off these other videos. But I do want your questions. If you're not a patron, then you can sign up for anything from £1, $2, whatever. Over on my Patreon now, you get access to the Neon 250 Dreamcast, the new stuff coming out, any exclusive stuff I've got on there, and obviously you get a chance to ask me questions, which can be answered in the video, and they can be about anything at all. So do fire away. I have also got some plans to push up the quality there in terms of what I mentioned on this process, talking to devs, been speaking to quite a few people, hopefully getting some chances of interviews and chats coming up very soon, so do stay put on that. I really am trying to improve the quality here, so fingers crossed it'll all go well over the next few months and everyone will benefit from it. I'm a very small channel, this is a side project, but I really do want to improve the quality, and I don't want to beg for money, so if you can afford it, £1, $2, whatever, then it really helps, because I'm bugger all from YouTube. And all of that is all on the back of me, improving the quality, getting people subscribed to the channel, improving my numbers, my views. That really helps. So subscribe, share, comment down below. Interaction is important to get more views from YouTube, and ring the bell, as Anita Ward said. It's important. You can ring my bell anytime. For now. Anyway, that's it. I am off with my English jokes, Benny Hill jokes. I will see you guys and girls on the next one. Stay tuned for more. Cheers.
Welcome to your new home.